In 1968, at a conference with his fellow historians, Robert A. Bailey said, quote, "We would not tell the story of a nation from the perspective of its prison population." Now, Bailey was commenting on recent scholarship which was critical of President Andrew Johnson and which uncovered the stories of slave revolts, uprisings, and emancipation. I'm not a historian of US history, but this quotation has been stuck in the back of my mind for quite some time because my research posits the exact opposite. I look at the lives of female inmates and women's prisons in 20th century China from roughly the 1920s to the 1950s. Now, there was a lot going on in China at this time. Japanese occupation, civil war, the establishment of the People's Republic of China. But what I'm interested in is how each of these respective governments sought to establish and maintain a modern penal system modeled on Japanese, American, and British examples to reform criminal subjects. At the same time in China, there was also heated debate around the so-called woman problem. Chinese reformers and intellectuals determined that Chinese women, who were largely uneducated, footbound, and illiterate, represented the national ills and weakness of the Chinese nation and the Chinese people. So solving the woman problem was about raising the status of women and molding them into good citizen subjects. And this became a really crucial and pressing issue of modernization in 20th century China. But what about the problem women? The unruly, the indigent, and the criminal within the woman problem. Incarcerated women were among some of the most disenfranchised members of Chinese society, and yet their lives touched upon some of the most important issues of national debate: the woman problem, modernization, successful state building. My research shows that advocates of the prison believed that women committed different crimes than men, that female criminals were a threat to moral order, and that female inmates needed a different kind of reform than their male counterparts. So, looking at female inmates, people on the margins of society, can actually tell us a great deal about the history of a nation. And my research gives us a better idea of how the global history of the prison can fit into a larger history of incarceration, and it tells us a lot about conversations that we're having which are critical, deeply critical, of the successes and the failures of the prison project altogether. Thank you.